Central to the Zen way is sewing the Buddha's robe, the robe of our tradition.
Actually, I'll show you now after I finish.
In Fuku Denkai, we come together to sew. It's part of our Zen practice. Everyone knows that in Zen we sit zazen, which is seated meditation. Less known is our devotion to the robe of Buddha. The great Zen teacher Kodo said, "Just put on the robe and sit. That's all." And so we sew the small rakusu which we wear around our neck and the larger kesa which wraps the body of a priest. But there's no large and small. Both to us are the robe of Buddha.
So what I'm sewing at the moment is an 11-striped ceremonial kesa for rare ceremonies, I suppose. And this kesa is made up of bits and pieces of discarded material. So it's called a funzoi kesa. Now the funzoi kesa has its origins in the original kesas from Buddha's time, which were sewn from discarded pieces of material. Material that was found in graveyards, material that was used for sanitary reasons, filthy material. This most rejected material was taken, was washed, disinfected, dyed and sewn together into the most precious garment. And that's what I'm doing with this funzoi kesa. So in this case, the kesa is made up of bits and pieces of material that members of our community, our Sangha, have cast aside after sewing their rakusus. The rakusu is the robe you wear around your neck, and they sew one to officially, I suppose, become Zen Buddhists in a ceremony called jukai. You sew your rakusu. So the bits of material that were left over, the discarded material, I'm sewing into this most precious kesa. And the case is going to have, where the green is going to, I don't know if you can see it there, a mountain. I'm going to make a mountain pattern. And then above there will be lighter coloured material, which will make the sky. The mountain, of course, being a sacred symbol in many spiritual traditions. So that's what I'm working on at the moment, and maybe I'll show it to you bit by bit as it progresses in the time ahead. So this is one of Taigu Roshi's kesas that he gave me a number of years ago. And when I look at the cases that Taigu, who is a master sewer, when I look at the cases he's sewn, I realise what a poor sewer I am, what a novice I am. The stitching here is absolutely exquisite. The presence of mind that was required to get the stitches so regular and so perfectly interspaced and so beautifully close together is quite incredible. This is a 7-stripe kesa, as is traditional, and it's the usual number of stripes you have in a kesa. Again, you see the paths through the rice fields, and this earthy coloured kesa is much more traditional. It's the one you see on Buddhist monks from all the schools, from Tibetan Buddhism to the Theravadan traditions, as well as the Mahayana. So it really is an exquisite kesa. So this is my transmission kesa. This is a kesa. It's made in a different way. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 striped kesa. So it's a ceremonial kesa. The normal kesa you sew is a 7-striped kesa. Again, we have the rice fields pattern, and this kesa I sewed really with the idea that it would represent the arrival of Zen Buddhism in Ireland, because the original kesa that started with Shakyamuni Buddha 2,500 years ago was inspired by the rice fields of where he lived in northeastern India, Nepal, that region. And the historical Buddha was walking with his attendant Ananda one day, and Ananda said, shouldn't we have a robe to distinguish us as the disciples of the awakened one? And Buddha said to Ananda, he indicated the rice fields they were walking through, and he said, "Sew a robe like this." So this is where the pathways through the fields and the rice fields come from. And it being drier climate where the Buddha lived at the time, the kesa, the traditional Buddhist kesa, has a very earthy colour, and but ceremonial cases, particularly in the Japanese Zen tradition, are very colourful sometimes. So in that tradition, I wanted to reflect the place where I am, the place where I live, with the green fields of the country that I grew up in, with the pathways between those fields. So for me, in a way, this transmission kesa is a mandala with great significance. It's sewn in a different style. The background has the stripes sewn directly onto it. There are a number of ways to sew a kesa, and Master Dogen, the founder of Soto Zen, describes these different ways in his great work, the Shobogenzo. So that's it, my transmission kesa. So here's another kesa given to me by my teacher Taigu. Again, the sewing is exquisite. This time he uses a bird's feet pattern. I don't know if you can see it there. There are different styles in the tradition where you sew different details to beautify and make the kesa special as a special practice. This is a beautiful linen okesa, very light, and again, it's traditional in colour, that mokuren colour, as we call it in Japan, in Japanese Buddhism, that earthy colour. So another beautiful kesa sewn by Taigu. Here's another kesa that I've sewn. I sewed this when my children were very, very sick. In fact, one of them was hospitalised and near death. We were in America, in Connecticut, at the time, and we had many, many, many long hours for a couple of weeks to wait to see how he was getting on and if he was getting better in the hospital and everything. And during those waiting hours, I sewed this kesa as refuge, really, as a practice of refuge. The kesa is in brown, so those earthy coloured cases can range from very light coloured earthy colours to darker browns. Again, you'll see these browns as traditional cases, particularly in Chinese traditions of Buddhism. This is a kesa that I will never forget making. The culture of the kesa was revived by Kodo the great 20th century Zen teacher, and it was beginning to fall away until the sewing the Buddha's robe, coming together in the Fuku Denkai to sew the Buddha's robe, was revived, and Kodo was involved in reviving that. So sewing is not just for the end product. Sewing is a practice, and often in our school we sew, spend maybe a year sewing an okesa, and then give it away, offer it to somebody. So I've sewed a number of okesas and rakusus that I've just given away on completion. So here's another okesa I've sewn, and it's in dark green, very dark green. In Zen Buddhism Ireland, we sold the green kesa, which was inspired, I suppose, by my Dharma transmission kesa. So we continue to sew the green kesa here. So here's another kesa, which I'll probably give away at some stage as well. So now I've got a couple of rakusus to show you. The rakusu is a miniature version of the big kesa. It is also the Buddha's robe. It's an abbreviated form of the Buddha's robe, and it's worn around the neck. As you can see, the rakusu comes in various styles as well. The rakusu is worn by both lay people and priests in the Zen Buddhist tradition. The okesa tends to be only worn by priests, although Dogen suggests it can also be worn by lay people, the founder of Soto Zen Buddhism, Master Dogen. So these rakusus, this one here with the in the blue was my Jukai rakusu, This is sewn in one way. Here we have a funzoi type rakusu sewn from discarded material, and here with this ring, you have a little plastic ring here. That's a monk shop rakusu. So the tradition of sewing that came west when Zen came to Europe and America was the nyohei of sewing your own rakusu, and that's what we practice in Zen Buddhism Ireland. The nyohei, sewing your own, that wild tradition outside the institution of institutional Zen, and the funzoi. These monk shop rakusus are the institutional official Soto Zen rakusu, the one with the ring. And the other nyohei, wild tradition of home sewing, isn't allowed in the official institution. For cases as well as for rakusus, they insist on officially made ones. So I wear all of them, as many Soto Zen priests in the West do, and really the rakusu is worn as a work garment and travel garment by priests because it's much more practical. Although it's the same robe as the large kesa, it's much smaller. It's a miniature version worn on straps around the neck, so it's very practical to wear when working or traveling. So unlike the kesa, on the back of the rakusu you have calligraphy, which is done by your Zen teacher, and also on the back of the rakusu is a stamp, the teacher's official stamp and the stamp of the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. I've two rakusus here with beautiful calligraphy. These two over here, beautiful calligraphy from my teacher Taigu, and this one here has calligraphy done by the American Zen teacher Brad Warner when he was visiting in his own unique style. The rakusus in a lot of sanghas are kind of color coded. You sew often a blue one in the San Francisco style for jukai, for lay ordination, a black one for priest ordination, and then if you receive Dharma transmission and you get the permission to be a Zen teacher, you sew a mokarin coloured rakusu, that earthy coloured rakusu I was talking about, and kesa of course. And for regular priest ordination, for novice priest ordination, you sew a black rakusu as well as a black kesa. So in our tradition, we sew a very dark forest green for jukai, a black rakusu then for priest ordination. And when someone receives the transmission, it'll be that regular earthy coloured rakusu and kesa that they'll sew. So yeah, that's the back of the rakusu. And often, by the way, it's your Dharma name. If you do jukai, lay ordination or priest ordination, you're given a Dharma name, and this is often written on the back of your rakusu.